Hello trainers, this is Nati, and I will be covering how to teach the Audacity workshop for English 100 and Folklore 100. So before I actually get to the workshop demo, I do want to explain a few things that I think will be helpful in terms of context for preparing for this workshop. So one is that Audacity workshops, if they are for English 100 or Folklore 100, which they 9.9 out of 10 times will be, are only 50 minutes long. About half of the class time realistically is used for setting them up. So downloading Audacity and getting the class files and going through the STS introduction. And the reason this is because most of the time you'll have a few students who will be dropping into the class a little late. And that's because one, they couldn't find the room. This is the first time at college library and they don't know where it is. Or two, they didn't get the memo that this was a training day. And so they'll go to their usual classroom, realize, oh no, there's a training today, and then book it to college library, making them a few minutes late. So if you feel like folks are coming in late and you're really going through this setup process and you're taking too long with it, as long as you're within like the 20-minute mark, you should be cool. Once you get closer to like the 25-30 minute mark and you're still helping students set up, by that point you should probably start making sure that you at least show them the basic tools. For this lesson for y'all, I will be using this teaching guide that I created. So you can all go through this on your own time, but I will basically be covering this in video format in this recording. A couple of things I do want to note though, before going ahead and showing the demo. Pre-workshop setup will be really important for this workshop. You'll connect your laptop to the room projector. You just have to make sure that your sound settings are also coming out of the projector. So make sure you know how to do that before coming into class on how to change your sound settings. I recommend you open Audacity while you're practicing the pre-workshop setup to make sure that your playback device is the projector setting so that when you are playing back anything on Audacity, it doesn't play back on your computer. If for any reason connecting your sound to the projector is not working, you can ask for help from the front desk folks. If that's not working, if they come in and help and they still don't know a solution, that's okay. You can have your audio come out of your laptop. Just make sure it's at the highest setting and tell students ahead of time that this is the scenario. Okay, so for this little section, I already mentioned this, it's gonna take, usually I think it's between 15 to 20 minutes after class has started, but it could take up to 25 minutes. And we really recommend they download without MuseHub. So this is the website for Audacity. When you download from this button, it'll download Audacity and MuseHub, and we recommend you download without. So the reason for that is because MuseHub just ends up being an extra thing that gets downloaded that they don't need for their project. It looks like this, and I guess MuseHub is now kind of like similar to Adobe Creative Cloud, where it downloads the Creative Cloud app and then from there you can get all the other applications. I guess MuseHub is now that for Audacity alongside all these other apps. But so it downloads this and then Audacity. So if you look for it, it'll come up. It's just unnecessary. So recommend you let them know to not do it. If they do end up downloading it, it's not the worst thing, but click on that one as much as you can. And then for downloading the class files, you might have to go back and forth between those two slides that are here. But make sure that you are guiding them for each of these, like showing them on your projector how to get to this at least a couple of times as students are trickling in, because a lot of folks will prefer a visual. And I know to get to our class files, at least through the Canvas page, it takes a few steps. When I deliver this workshop, I usually also just have music playing in the background as students are trickling in. So that's your call if you want to do that, but I do think it helps set the vibe a little bit more. And then when you turn off the music, they know to cue in on you. Hello everyone, my name is Nati, and I'm here to teach y'all how to use Audacity for your podcast. So the first thing I'm going to have y'all do while you're here is actually go to audacityteam.org and download the software if you don't already have it on your computer. Quick note, if you are using Chromebook, for whatever reason Audacity does not work, So I recommend you log into the computers in this lab. They have Audacity. The version might be a little older, but you should be able to still do all of the things that I show you today. But if you have a Mac or a Windows, please go to audacityteam.org. I'll give you a little demo of what you should see. It'll take you to a page that looks like this. I highly recommend that you go ahead and click download without MuseHub. If you do click on the button, it's no issue. It just downloads an extra thing that you don't necessarily need. When you click on that link, it's going to go ahead and download to your downloads folder on your Finder or your File Explorer, or at the very top if you're using Chrome or Safari. So go ahead and click on the downloaded file. You're going to go through the setup process on your computer. And then once you have that, you should have it downloaded. So as folks are downloading this, I'm going to keep this up and I'm going to go around the room and assist students who might need extra help. So if you are running into some issues, just raise your hand. I'll help out. Otherwise, I'll just kind of go around the room to kind of see how folks are doing. Okay, so for those of y'all who were able to successfully download Audacity, that's great. If you can go ahead and actually download our class files, that'd be really helpful. If you have audio files that you can practice with for today's demo, you can go ahead and use those. It does not have to be our class files. But if you have no audio to work with, you can download some from our website. So go ahead and follow these steps. For anyone who needs a visual for this, I will go ahead and go to sts.doit.wis.edu. From here, you'll click on the menu item that says Today at STS. You'll click on Workshop, or you can also scroll down just a tad. So your first step will just be to sign in. The topic for today will be Audacity, so it should be kind of towards the top. And then you'll just fill in what year it is and just click Submit. Really quick. Once you hit submit, it will take you back to that last page that you were in. And then your second step will be to enroll in our Canvas course. So go ahead and click on that button. It will take you to something that looks like this. If this is the first time that you've been in one of our classes, then you will likely see enroll in course in red. Click on that. After you click on that, you'll see a go to course option as you see here. Click on the go to course. And then from here, this is currently our Canvas course. This is where all of our modules currently live. They will be transitioning out to another location soon. But for now, you can go to Modules. Scroll down a little bit until you see Audacity. And then this is what you will want to download. So go ahead and click on the little download, the down arrow to download right away. If you click on the file itself, you'll likely see a page that looks like this. Just make sure you click on that download button from here or at the top banner. Okay, so is anyone today using a Windows computer? Okay, so we have a few people using Windows. So if you are using a Windows machine, you will need to go ahead and unzip the file. I will go ahead and leave instructions up here, but essentially you just have to right click on your downloaded class file. From there, click extract all, and then you'll basically save that new folder to a new location, and these will be files you can actually work with. If you download these files on a Mac, all you have to do is click on it on the downloaded file once. It will automatically unzip. So if you're having issues with this, please let me know. I'll go around individually as folks are downloading Audacity and the class files to help you with this process. Otherwise, I'll leave this over here as well for y'all. I see more folks are trickling in, so I'm going to go ahead and actually bring this first slide up again. So if you're joining us just now, the first step is just to download Audacity. So go to this website. I recommend you click on the download without MuseHub option, just so you're not downloading things you don't need. I will be repeating these instructions several times as folks are coming into the class. So for those of you who have been in the session this whole time, so sorry, you have to hear me say this several times. But go ahead and go to this website if you haven't already. I'll be going around to assist students as they need assistance. And then for those of y'all who need this again, So if you've already downloaded Audacity, there will be a sign-in process and a chance for y'all to use some of our practice files. These are the steps. Just go to this website, click on these buttons that you see as they come up, and then once you get to our STS Canvas course, you'll have to go to the course, go to the modules, click on today's workshop, which is Audacity, and then click on that link for the class files. I'll show y'all a demo of this in a bit. Okay, so now that we have everyone with Audacity downloaded as well as class files, let me go ahead and introduce our services a little bit more, and then we can get to the training. So software training for students, hello, y'all are currently in what's called a requested workshop. So your instructor asked us to come in to teach this topic for y'all because you have a class assignment that will be requiring it. But if after this workshop you have more questions on Audacity, you need more help, we do offer one-on-one help services. So you can drop into our office hours either at College Library or Mortgage Hall. You do not need an appointment. Or we do have a space on our website that you can request an appointment. It just might take a little longer to connect you with one of our trainers. Every semester we also offer workshops on various topics, usually towards the beginning of the semester and then the middle of the semester. So please look at our website to see if any of our workshops are upcoming and you want to attend them. It's all free. That's our website in case you want to learn more about our services or request help. So before I get into teaching anything for Audacity, I do have a land acknowledgement. This university exists on the homeland of the Ho-Chunk people, who call this area Dejop. In 1832, the U.S. federal government forced the Ho-Chunk people to sign a treaty ceding all rights to the land that they had lived on for thousands of years. The opportunities we enjoy at UW-Madison take place in the context of this history, and it's important to remember that the Ho-Chunk are a sovereign nation. To learn more about the Ho-Chunk Nation, the people, and their culture, visit hochunknation.com. Please contact the STS managers at sts@doit.wisc.edu if you have any questions about the above statement. So we'll be covering a few things today in Audacity. The first one will just be the interface. So what is it that we see when we first open Audacity? What are the buttons we should be focusing on? We'll then import an audio file and we'll do some basic edits to it. We'll move it, trim, cut, and then I'll show you how to adjust the volumes and maybe add a transition. After that, we'll learn how to add some simple effects. The ones that we'll be showing you today is amplification, loudness normalization, noise reduction, and maybe compression, depending on how we're feeling. I'll then show you how to save and export, and then download the FFmpeg library towards the end of the class, so you can feel prepared to set up your next project. Okay, so go ahead and open Audacity. All right, so when you first open Audacity, you'll likely see something that looks like this. You will probably see a pop-up of some kind. So you can just exit out of this. And we're gonna go ahead and go over what we see right away. So right away, the biggest area that we see is this dark gray space. This is where our media files will live once we import them. But for now, it's just empty. So before we actually bring in a file, I do just wanna cover what we see at the top banner here. At the beginning, we'll see all of our playback buttons. So all of these will be helpful if we want to play or stop our audio. You can also just use your space bar if that's easier, but you do have buttons if you prefer them. You'll also have here your record button. So when we are going to, later in the workshop, practice recording, this is the button you would use to just start. So that is a really cool feature in Audacity. Next to your playback buttons, you have your basic tools. Of these 4 tools, we'll only focus on 2, which will be your selection tool. It looks like a little eye, and then your envelope tool that looks like a diagonal line with 2 black circles. So these will be the main 2 that we focus on, and I'll go over what they each do in a bit. Next to your tools, you have your little navigation buttons. So you have your zoom in and zoom out buttons, which will be really helpful if you want to get really detailed with editing. And then you do have a few other options here that are just like a quick fix for zooming in or out if in case you did too much of either. Next to all of your zoom buttons, you do have this audio setup option. This will be extremely important, especially if you're using Bluetooth headphones. So if you click on this, you'll get a bunch of menu items. The main one that we focus on will be playback device and recording device. So if you hover over playback device, just make sure that you're using the correct device for your project. So likely it will just be your computer speakers, but if you're using Bluetooth headphones, they should be an option for you here. If you don't see them, but they are currently connected, you may have to just do a rescan audio devices. The system will basically look for that Bluetooth headphone, and then it should appear in the list. For recording, this is if you want to use Audacity to record in-house, you would just go ahead and make sure that the correct mic is being used. So by default, it should just be your laptop, but if you are using an external mic, then you want to make sure that that's the one you're using. And then the last thing in this banner that we'll really focus on is just these little levels. So we have a recording level section and then a playback. So for the recording, if you click on the mic and click on enable silent monitoring, this is going to be a really good indication to you that your mic is working. So whatever mic you detected or you selected for your audio setup will be the one that shows up here. If you do not see a green bar, then that means that no mic is being detected and you may have some bigger hardware issue going on, or maybe you just didn't select the correct device. So just make sure that that's, first of all, the thing that you try to resolve. But yeah, if there's no mic being detected, then that's a bigger issue that we unfortunately cannot fix in today's session for you. But what's nice about the recording levels is as you are speaking into the mic, you'll kind of see where the levels fall. Typically, it's a good idea to have your mic be, or your levels be between -12 and -6. I recommend each of these level sections have this little circle. Keep that at 100% just so that it's as accurate as possible to see what you're recording at. Below the recording level will be the playback level, and this will be available to you where you can see it once you actually play audio that you import here. And similarly to recording, I'll just show you at what level it is. Okay, and so with that, let's go ahead and actually import our first file. So there's a couple ways to import. The first one just being the traditional route, you go to File, Import Audio. So if you're someone who prefers this method, go ahead and do that. When you go ahead and click on audio, I'm going to leave this up for just a little bit in case anyone needs a visual. From here, you're going to locate your file that you just downloaded. So you'll likely, from this little side menu, you have to go to your downloads folder and just make sure that you're currently on the right folder. So from here, the first thing that we're going to be using is the introduction. So you can just hit open. And you should see something like this. The other way that you can import that I personally prefer is by opening up a Finder or a File Explorer menu so you see all of your files here. And then I like to go to wherever my files live. Currently mine are in my downloads folder. And when I locate my folder, I can just do a drag and drop from here if that's easier. If I wanted to do this introduction, I would just click and then drag over to my Audacity, and then I can import that way as well. So right away, we went ahead and I imported the first file. So let's go ahead and listen to it. So I'm going to hit my space bar.
Hello and welcome to the Badger News Podcast, where we talk about campus life here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. This episode, we are fortunate to have a guest speaker here to talk about a recent hackathon he was involved in. This hackathon is called Mad Data, and it is hosted every year by the popular data science club known as .data. This event is a great opportunity for both computer science and data science students.
Okay.
Here to answer a few questions about it is freshman Christian Parker. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Okay, so that's our entire clip. It sounds really good. We could maybe change the volume levels a little bit and clean up the background noise, but we'll show you how to do that a little bit later. The first thing I'm going to show you how to do is just use those zoom features. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. So I have room to show you how to move this around. So I'm going to go ahead and from my zoom options at the top here, I'm going to zoom out. So click on that negative so I can kind of see it a little bit better this way. So the first thing that I'm going to teach you how to do is how to move a clip. So currently your clip is set at the very beginning, which is great. But while I'm on my selection tool, I can just click and basically hover over the name of any clip. My cursor will become a little hand, and then I can just click and drag this wherever I want it to go. This will make more sense once more clips are introduced, but that's how you would be able to move clips around. And you can also move clips between tracks if you'd like. Next, you can trim clips. Basically, I just hover over any top corner until my icon looks like almost like a bracket key with 2 arrows on opposite end. And that will indicate to me you're ready to trim. So then you can just click and drag over to wherever you want your clip to be shortened to. Nice, and now my clip is shortened. If I ever change my mind, I can just click and drag back to bring my clip back to its entirety. So know that that's an option for you. If I'm working on my project and I realize, oh, there's a section here at the very beginning, let me listen to it.
Hello,
there's a tiny little sound. I can actually just click and drag a selection and then just hit my delete key to permanently delete it. So this is a good task if you have just a tiny little like noise or a little just sound effect that you don't necessarily want. You can just select it and then hit delete, and it will permanently delete it for you. There's no way for you to go back unless you do a Command Z or Control Z to undo. You can also split clips. So if I highlight the section I want to separate from this current clip, I can highlight it. I can then right click and then I can do a split clip, and now these are 3 clips that I can work with. I can also do a split clip between a section here. So like right here, if I put my marker, I can right click, split clip, and now this is its own little section. If that doesn't work for you for any reason and you want to do it the old traditional route, you can just move your marker wherever you want by clicking. You can then go to edit, audio clips, and then split. These are 3 separate clips at this point. However, you can always go ahead and click on either corner and extend each of these. If you want to delete a clip, all you have to do is click on it and then just hit delete. And then if you ever just want to undo, I mentioned it earlier, but you can do a Command Z on a Mac or Control Z on Windows to undo one step at a time. So I'm actually going to go ahead and delete these 2. And I'll just keep this section here. So let's go ahead and work with volume now. So next to the selection tool, there will be an envelope or envelope tool. It looks like a diagonal line with 2 circles. The moment you click on this tool, your clip will become highlighted. So this just indicates that it's ready for you to kind of change up the volume levels. So to work with this, all you have to do is click a couple of times to start off. So I'm going to click once. You can just click once actually, and then this will decrease your entire clip. But if you want to do more of like transitions, then you'll have to make another click elsewhere. And then these are going to be little like anchors that you can basically click and drag upwards or downwards to increase or decrease the volume. If you realize you don't want a point anymore, you made too many, or you want to just bring back the levels it was at the beginning, you can just click and drag all the way up, and then it will eventually just get rid of those dots. Once you're good with this, go back to your selection tool to make any other edits that don't involve the sound. So now that we've covered those basic edits, I'm actually going to give y'all 5 minutes to practice these on your own. So if you go back to those class files, you'll have a few other options to kind of work with. So you'll have your introduction. You also have a guest speaker that you can add. You'll have a little effect that you can add it wherever you feel necessary. And then you'll have background music and then an outro. If you want to work on different sections, but you want to keep kind of what you have, you can do a mute or a solo option. Mute will mute that track and leave whatever else for you to listen to. And then a solo track, the solo option will let you just focus in on that one track and mute everything else. So those are options for y'all to practice with. So go ahead and import these and kind of arrange them how you think a good podcast intro would sound like. And then we'll go over some effects afterwards. All right, so I just assisted everyone. It seems like folks got a good handle of those tools. Next, I'm going to show you how to add some effects. So I assembled my project to look like this. Yours probably looks a little bit different, and that's okay. Basically, I just want to show y'all how layering works. So in this case, I have my background music, I have my outro, and all of my speakers essentially on one track. So reminder, you can just click and drag and then just move these to one track if you want. But it's all up to you as to how you prefer this to look. If you want to move any tracks, just so that, again, it's your preference, this won't change the sound anyway. It will just change how you organize your content. You do have these 3 buttons from here, and you can move tracks up, down, or to the very top or bottom. So you do have these options if you would prefer to move the tracks around. So to apply any effect in Audacity, the first thing you have to do is select that clip or clips that you want to have the effect take a hold of. For this one, let me say I just want my introduction to be a little louder. I can select my clip by just clicking and dragging over a selection on that clip, or I can just click once on the actual name at the top to select everything. After I've selected that clip, I just have to go to Effect, Volume and Compression, and the very first one is Amplify. So from here, I can go ahead and amplify this however I want. I can also have a preview if I want to make sure, if I want to kind of hear it before I apply it. You'll notice though, for amplify, you can decrease the volume as well. So that's where for our background music, maybe we could choose to do that if we wanted to. But if you go over a certain threshold to apply the amplify, if you're trying to increase the volume, there will be a point where it kind of doesn't let you anymore. So basically, this is just the program telling you, hey, if you apply this volume increase, it might start distorting your music or your sound. If you don't care, you can just do a allow clipping and it'll let you apply it. But I recommend you only amplify to the point where you can still see that blue button appear. So I'm going to amplify mine a little bit, just by 4, and then hit apply. And I'm going to notice that automatically the little waves, the sound waves, look bigger. So that's an indication to me that now it's a little louder. So let me go ahead and play.
Hello and welcome to the Badger News Podcast, where we talk about campus
life here. So
this
is good, and
I
can tell from my levels here that it's like
this episode,
closer
we
to
are
between
fortunate to have a
-12
guest
and
speaker here to
-6.
talk about a recent hackathon he was involved.
So one question that gets asked by students is there a way to kind of auto match loudness between clips? And there's no perfect way to do it, but one method does get close is with the loudness normalization effect. So for that, similar to the last effect, is you first have to highlight what clip or clips you want this effect to apply to. So if you go ahead and do a selection, I'll go ahead and select just my guest speaker and my outro. I can go to Effect, Volume and Compression, and then Loudness Normalization. I'm going to leave that up there for folks who need it. I leave my default settings as is. I don't like to touch them. And then basically I just go ahead and hit apply. Automatically both of these selected clips increase their volume, and they tried as possible to kind of match, at least for the peaks of the volume. Another thing that I like to add is compression. So if I click on my guest speaker to select that entire clip and I go to Effect, Volume and Compression, and then Compressor. Again, I just go with the default. I don't like to touch these, but if you are comfortable with it, you definitely can. I just hit apply, and you'll notice that it very nicely tries its best to compress the louder speaker here to be closer to the one who's being interviewed.
And what we created. It was such a cool experience seeing all the different ideas that teams came up with.
That sounds intense, but super fun.
So you may have to play around with the settings if you're comfortable with it, but that's one way that you can make a quick fix for that. Otherwise, you could go ahead and actually section these out, split them from the clip, and then manually reduce the volume for each of these sections. All right, so for our last effect, this is a really popular requested one, is the noise reduction feature. This feature is really good if you want to get rid of some of that background noise. It will not do magic, unfortunately. So if you are in a scenario where you record it in a really windy space where there's really strong traffic sounds in the background or something loud like that, this will not fix it completely, but it can help a little bit. For this feature, it's a two-step process. One, you have to give it a sample of what noise you want it to remove. And then the second is to tell it where you want this effect to apply to. I'm going to select the guest speaker one. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And you're going to notice that it's very faint. You may not even see it, but on your own screens, you should be able to see kind of tiny little sound waves in the areas that should be quiet. So I would click and select a little sample. I'm then just going to go to Effect, Noise Removal and Repair, and then Noise Reduction. From here, my step one, it'll tell me right here, is to get a noise profile, which is a sample of that background noise. I click on it, I'm not going to see a difference, but basically the program just went ahead and sampled that background noise. My second step is to tell the program where I want this effect to apply to, and I'm going to go ahead and click once on my name of my guest speaker file, so it selects all of it. And then I'm going to go back to Effect, back to Noise Removal and Repair, Noise Reduction, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. I like to leave my my options here as default. You can play around with them and preview them if you want, but just know that the more of this effect that you add, the more you risk distortion. So I'm going to hit OK. And then automatically I'm going to see that these little wavelengths have these little sound waves have kind of altered. They're no longer as present. So now if I hear it back.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me on the show. Excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. So Chris, tell us a bit.
It's a little bit more crisp, and that's what we want. So that is it for effects. There are more effects that you can add from here. We just don't have time to go over them. But one of the fun ones is like the EQ or filters that you can do, or delay and reverb or distortion if you want, but we won't have time to cover that right now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to record. I recommend you move your marker to be closer to the end, like after your last clip. And you can click on any of these. And all you have to do is just click record. And as long as the mic is being detected, it should just start going ahead and recording whatever you're saying. I just went ahead and clicked on that stop button to stop recording. So you'll notice that for my example, it went ahead and created a new track for my recording. And that's just because my computer records in mono. These other tracks that I've imported here that I have are stereo tracks. So it will just depend on your mic whether it creates a new track for you or it builds off an existing one. So the one thing you do have to know is that if you have a recording in mono, you won't be able to move it to a stereo track. It will have to just stay in its own little track. Okay, and then the last thing we have is to save and export. If you go to File, Save Project, Save Project, or Project Save As, this will let you go ahead and save it as an Audacity file. So I recommend you save to the computer. You do have the option to save to the cloud, but I think it makes you create a new account and stuff. So for now, we're just go ahead and save to computer. It's going to bring you back to this File Explorer file, this Finder. Go ahead and make sure that you are saving this to a folder that makes sense. I recommend you make a new folder for your class if you don't already have one, but make sure it's saved correctly and make sure that you do give it a name that makes sense. So if this is your interview project, I don't know, follow your guidelines. I would recommend from whatever your project says. But you'll hit save. And this will then go ahead and save it to that folder so that you can come back to it later on. So if I go to my downloads and I look, if I go to my documents and I go to my English 100, I have my interview project. I can double click on this. It'll open it back up in Audacity for me to keep working on it. This is not going to be the file that you will submit for your project unless they're specifically asking you to submit your Audacity file. You will likely then have to submit an MP3 or a WAV file, depending on what your project calls for. And to export as that file, you'll have to go to File, Export Audio. Again, I'm going to export to my computer. And then here, make sure that the name is something that makes sense. Make sure the folder is one that you can locate later. And then for the format, change it to whatever your assignment calls for. I leave all of this as is unless your project guidelines state otherwise, but then I can go ahead and just hit export. And as long as I know where I saved it to, I can go back, and now this is an MP3 that I can submit to Canvas. And now this is the last step we're all going to be doing together. Actually, does anyone have any questions on saving or exporting? Okay. So for Audacity, unfortunately, you do have to download this extra library for you to be able to import any audio recordings from your iPhones, or if you're using any audios from like video files. So there are instructions on our module on our Canvas course if you need it. Otherwise, we have time now. Let's actually go back to audacityteam.org. So I'm going to go ahead, click downloads at the top here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit until I see this FFmpeg library. I'm going to click on this link. From here, there is a tutorial that you can watch if for any reason it's not working for you right now. But basically from here, just make sure you select the correct operating system and then click on that first link. The steps are also written out for you here. From here, you'll just have to scroll down until you see this FFmpeg installer for Audacity and go ahead and click on the right one. So either for Windows, if you're using a 64 or 32, likely a 64, or a Mac for this one. Click on this, it'll download as a file. So it'll download here. You can double click on it. You'll have to go through all of this. You can just hit continue. And then it should automatically let you work within Audacity. If it doesn't, exit out fully out of Audacity and then reopen it, and then you should be able to go ahead and import any of the files. Okay, we covered a lot in today's session. Just want to do a quick reminder for folks, if you do have any questions after this training, that's our website. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. Please drop into our office hours. Most of our trainers know Audacity, so they'll be able to help you with your questions. But with that, thank you for being here. This is the last step for y'all to do. If you can just fill out an evaluation for me, that'd be really helpful so that I know how this workshop went and how we can improve for future sessions. But yeah, after that, thank you. You are free to leave, and good luck with your projects.